Where is Charles Bridgeman now? My 600-pound life star discusses with Drive. Currently due to strict dietary restrictions and obesity surgery. My 600-pound life's Charles Bridgeman refused to decline Drive. Yunan Nauzaradon decided to have bariatric surgery because his home was so comfortable. Houston, Texas. Charles Bridgeman seems to be sticking to his weight loss plan and is currently living in Everett, Washington after making his debut on Season 12 of My 600-Pound Life. As introduced in the program, he seems to have been on a strict diet. He also frequents local parks and shares videos of himself there on social media. The reality TV star reportedly gave birth to an adorable puppy around Thanksgiving 2023, and it looks like he has a few pets. It seems that they are greatly benefiting from traveling, as they are often seen smiling. At the end of September 2023, Charles announced to the world that he had lost weight and weighed only 385 pounds. At his first weigh-in on the TLC show, he weighed around 677 pounds, and at his second and final weigh-in, he weighed 604 pounds. Considering these principles and the fact that he apparently did not undergo weight loss surgery from his doctor, Yunan Nauzaradon performed it, and the transformation was definitely noteworthy. He has a huge fan base that has continued to support him over the years, and his love for his family seems stronger than ever. Who is Charles in Season 12 of The 600-Pound Life? TLC's My 600-Pound Life is primarily aimed at people who are trying to lose weight while following the advice of doctors. I want to follow you now. In the 7th episode of Season 12, Charles' Journey, Charles continued on the same path while expressing his desire to change his life with the help of others. During his contact with him, he often disagreed with medical professionals. Although their relationship was never simple and often led to difficult arguments, he had a fascinating journey. During a conversation about his career, Charles revealed that his mother was addicted to methamphetamines. She took young Charles from Washington to Apple Park, California, without telling her father on the way, fearing that her father's parents would take him. He said it was difficult to be alone with his mother. She just wasn't there either. Charles often wondered if his mother was drunk, so he usually spent time with his grandparents. Charles' grandmother loved to bake and often prepared large quantities of food and ate them frequently, causing Charles to gain 180 pounds by the time he was in middle school. Charles became Brad and Cheyenne's older brother when he was a freshman in high school. He loved them both and spent a lot of time with them. He started using drugs in high school, and his weight reached around 250 to 300 pounds. His mother then kicked him out of the house and lived with his grandparents. Charles' grandmother also found out that he was using drugs soon after he graduated and kicked him. As a result, he lived homeless for many years. When Charles wakes up and sees someone kicking him, he decides to change his life. He was given a ticket to his brother's residence in Everett, Washington. But on the way there he was found in possession of methamphetamine and was jailed. With the support of his high school friends and their parents, he was immediately taken to a rehabilitation facility. This allowed him to stop using drugs, but it also made him eat more. Charles was moved into their home shortly after Brad and Cheyenne decided to help him. When Charles made his TLC debut, he had been out of a treatment facility for about 4 years. Brad was his sister's full-time caregiver while she worked. Elena, a personal care assistant, also helped with bathing and meal preparation. Charles took part in the conversation with the doctor. He is currently participating in weight loss efforts, with doctors advising him to aim for a weight of around 100 pounds for his height. He strongly warned Charles not to travel to Houston, Texas, and instead advised Charles to exercise more, follow the recommended diet, and work with a local clinic in the meantime. Charles' car seemed to have broken down and he couldn't make it on time. Still, he seemed to be sticking to the diet suggested, but in the 4th month of Dr. Catch-Up, he wasn't satisfied with this. Charles' apparent lack of communication skills and reluctance to show up for office meetings ultimately frustrated the doctor. Charles continued to follow his diet for several more months, who eventually hung up on him in anger. Now, when he was 7 months pregnant, she decided to surprise him by going to a clinic in Houston, Texas. "Well, I decided to surprise him by calling him when I arrived in Houston," Charles and Brad decide to call Drive. They were not prepared for the reaction they received. Drive now explained that they objected to Charles's flight because they believed it would have a negative impact on Charles' health. Moreover, he thought that such an attitude was unnecessary, especially considering that the last call was over. He said Charles lost weight over the next few months, but he declined a trip to Houston, Texas. Now it was requested. Although this meant he was no longer a member of the doctor's program. Charles maintained his belief that diet and exercise were the best way to lose weight and hoped that the doctor would did, so that in the future he can convince now that his surgery should be performed in Washington. "How much does my 600-pound life cost? Yunan Nauzaradon?" Drive. Now, the My 600-Pound Life star is dedicated to treating patients and seems to be following the Hippocratic Oath whenever possible. He revealed this in an interview with Houstonian magazine. "If we look at the moral obligations that we have, we see that there are people who do not have life, but who can have life. We may be making a living, but we don't have to worry about making a living on every patient we see." He told the outlet, "We don't have to be rich. I have never allowed a camera to change my attitude towards patients. I would do exactly the same thing with or without a camera," he said. Therefore, it is not surprising that Drive patients will no longer be billed for visits or treatment under this program. Fans agree that he doesn't seem to be the type of person who would profit from the hardships of others.